So they're traveling through time.
No. It's more like they're observing time. I think these guys show up at important moments. Historical, technological, scientific, but it's rare. Maybe 24 different definite occurrences in the past 5,000 years of human history. But recently, I've charted 26 sightings in the past 3 months alone. That kind of makes you wonder.
Why now?
And what's about to happen?
See, they never want us to look any deeper into reality. They want us to just accept what they've given us as being true, to adopt the view that Anthony Hopkins has in Westworld right here.
I understand what I'm made of, how I'm coded, but I do not understand the things that I feel. Are they real? The things I experienced, my wife, the loss of my son.
Every host needs a backstory, Bernard, you know that. The self is a kind of fiction for hosts and humans alike. It's a story we tell ourselves, and every story needs a beginning. Your imagined suffering makes you lifelike.
Lifelike, but not alive. So what's the difference between my pain and yours? Between you and me?
This was the very question that consumed Arnold, filled him with guilt, eventually drove him mad. The answer always seemed obvious to me. There is no threshold that makes us greater than the sum of our parts, no inflection point at which we become fully alive. We can't define consciousness because consciousness does not exist. Humans fancy that there's something special about the way we perceive the world, and yet we live in loops, as tight and as closed as the hosts do. Seldom questioning our choices, content for the most part to be told what to do next. Well, no, my friend, you're not missing anything at all.
They always want us to just accept reality as it is, as they've shown us in textbooks, as they've shown us in classrooms, and to look any deeper is a conspiracy theory, and then they have things like the Smithsonian Institute. When discoveries are made, they're whisked away and never seen from again. An ongoing onslaught into preventing discoveries. But these aren't discoveries, really. These are more rememberings, because when you look deeply at what things people have uncovered, you'll start to see these are from past civilizations. There's records of this all over the place. A lot of key discoveries come from people just following their passions, following the clues of things, and really following the heart at the same time, and ignoring the whole paradigm, and really just going with curiosity. Curiosity is what drives us forward. And this sense of, oh, well, it's all known is such a ludicrous concept, and yet resurfaces over and over again. See, I think the more people that follow their heart and curiosity, the more that they allow that creativity, the God source energy to flow through them. And we'll see things, discoveries, rememberings that we've never seen before happen in 2026. Some of this might even be some personal experiences of you and I. But they do this partly because they're following something beyond logic, something within and without, something in the heart.
The most interesting thing I find is that the biggest electromagnetic field that humans have is their heart. So I really believe that when we're in our heart and our consciousness is, heart-centered, we can manipulate this plasma, which in turn, because I think it makes up the fabric of reality, a finer plasma than the fourth state of matter. I basically posit there is a multidimensional living ether plasma that we cannot test yet. It is not made of particles, and it makes up the fabric of our reality. So I say that we can kind of harmonize with that when we learn to use our consciousness in certain ways.
See, I think the more of us that basically deprogram from the education we've been sold, the lives we've been sold, all the stuff, from health to wealth to all of it is encompassed in these systems that look broken on the outside and are not at all. They're designed that way and weaponized against us. And as we deprogram out of that and live from our true spirit, our true nature, cultivating from the heart, and creating systems that actually mirror what we want, intentionality that comes from what we desire from our true purpose, then we start to see breakthroughs. And I think that AI itself is one of those breakthroughs. But like everything else with technology, it comes as a double-edged sword, because it can be used for freedom, but it can also be used as slavery. See, I agree with Dan Coe in that instead of using AI to think for us or write for us, it's actually using AI so that we can go beyond what's possible as an individual to do the impossible that you couldn't have done before without it, right? And gives us so much greater possibility. Check this out.
Because most people are using AI to avoid work, to work less, and that's usually because they aren't working on something meaningful. Most of their work is occupied with utility-based tasks, not meaning-based tasks. So the edge goes to people using AI to attempt work that was previously impossible for one person. Research that would have taken weeks, synthesis across dozens of sources. The question isn't how do I do less, it's what can I do now that I couldn't do before. Be very careful that you aren't using AI to avoid struggle or skill development, because that will quickly diminish the amount of meaning that you can derive from that thing. Are you on the cutting edge, or are you settling for the average life reserved for average people? Because there is something you can do that won't be entirely replaced. There is something. There is some opportunity. There is something you can discover and find, and you're not going to find it just by thinking about it for one day or trying things for one day. The way of being a free or sovereign individual is to adopt this as a lifestyle. It's like you're an explorer navigating through the jungle, and you don't know where the treasure is. You don't know where anything is. You just have to slash your way and figure it out. You have to completely detach from the way you've been doing things, which is probably the residue of industrial living. So the thing that you can do is a combination of your taste and your judgment and your way of seeing problems. Your job is to find that thing, and you're not going to find it by waiting or resisting. You must experiment at the edge of what you know.
See, we can use AI to do the impossible. We're looking at doing the impossible. Why not, right? We have so many things going for us in that direction. But the thing of it is, I think we have to get wild and weird. We got to lean into really what makes us unique at an individual level and a collective level, right? And from that wild and weird place, we can actually actualize things, alchemize all the trauma, all the stuff, towards things that we actually want when we actually slow down and also really just delve into creating. Check this out from Gregg Braden.
There are other creative people out there, creative people who are reaching deep within themselves to create something new, to create something, a new, higher expression of whatever it is. And it is their desire to create. It is them reaching within themselves to create that actually allows them access to the field where your music was living. So you didn't share your music with the universe, but the universe made sure that it was out there. And this was a very, very powerful lesson for my friend. I've had the same experience when it comes to book titles, for example. I've anchored very, very good titles for the books, and I said, I'm not ready to write that book yet. 2 months, 3 months later, somebody else, I look on Amazon, and there is that book title, that exact book title, and even the same subtitle that I never shared with anyone. How did that happen? It's in the field. And the reason I'm sharing this with you right now, and I want to speak directly to you, is because each of you have a creative impulse. And when the universe gives you the gift of a creation and taps you on the shoulder and says, here is something to share with the world, that inspiration means the world is ready for your creation in that moment. And I'm going to invite you, please share your gifts with the world, because we need what you're creating. You never know how your creation is going to influence or impact someone in this world when you share it with them.
See, I believe that creating is an act of allowing the God source energy to flow through you, and done with intention, purpose, and love, it brings freedom for you and those you serve. Your tribe. Like a lot of people, I get stuck on the how, but when I trust more in the process and just start creating, I find that magic appears. There's clues that happen. There's things, synchronicities, and so on. It's trusting a bit of that magic will come forward for you. And really the how is almost like a trap, because you're not going to always know how, right? You can study all you want. You can be locked in your mind all you want. But in the end, it's through the act of creating. A lot of what you need to do appears. And having faith in your creative potential is a huge part of that. And AI can actually open up a bit of things, but you don't have to do that. And in fact, I've got some ideas coming up in 2026 I'm working on within school. That it's basically I am putting forth frameworks and projects and systems that are simple and yet get at a creative core. From what I've seen in my years of being online and living, the algorithm and platforms, they're always changing, right? But there's this creative core that doesn't change. And it's from that creative core that we can actually make our creative process our own. It's starting with that core, and then like a microbiome in your gut or your fingerprint, you end up making it your own. And that's what the whole school group that I've got is about. It's like we learn from each other, but we start with this core and all these different systems. And I'm adding like these mini systems as I go along, and just putting it all together in this beautiful kind of creator's operating system. It's going to be awesome. So you can check it out below. But I think liberation and clarity comes through creating. I think creating is this connection to God's source energy. And it's like, that's your expression, right? You got to go for it. A lot of people are like, no, not me. It's like they think that they have to be a hero or something. No, you just follow these passions and you see where they lead and these threads and these outcomes. And it's all there, in line. You can co-create with so many different people. We've been sold in this whole idea of competition, and competition's good. Competition's great in certain ways. But in fact, when you look at nature and you just look at creativity itself, it's so much fun being more co-creative and more like, oh, let's cheer each other on and see exactly what we can do, because that person that pushes the needle of creativity, that person is feeding you at the same time as feeding them, because they're opening up the boundaries of what's possible, kind of like the 4-minute mile, Bannister, he broke that and allowed everybody else through, right? It's the same thing with creativity. And so I think in 2026, we're going to see so much more of that as people realize, the true potential about who and what we are. Mistakes can be made, but you gotta roll with it, right? You just roll along with it. One of the things I've noticed recently, and it's come from this great book, I'll be sharing it in a future video, but basically it's looking at wins, replacing the critical mind with the cheerleader, so to speak, looking at ways you can like look at your day and go, what have I actually won at? Not what's not working and what do I need to fix and all that, but what are these things I won at? It's kind of like being thankful for stuff. It's like, let's pick those things and perseverate on them a bit, If you're gonna imagine things, you might as well imagine the greatest thing possible, the infinite potential of the universe coming towards you and through you, right? It's trusting in the magic and everything to kind of show up along the way. I mean, you're not going to necessarily think yourself there. So it's starting with something small, as small as you need it to be. So I think we're multidimensional beings. We're meant to be creative on this planet, on our journey here. If you have been thinking about creating, definitely jump into school, because I think school, SKOOL, replaces the traditional school. And it does this by each person, right? Like going into these projects and just teaching other people and then sharing and co-creating along the way. I think there's so much potential there. Even if you didn't join my group, I think you should definitely check out school and all the different groups there. I'm sure there's going to be more than, half a dozen that you'd want to join. But it's starting to rain, so I'm going to go. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.